Welcome aboard! For our first destination, let's visit this iconic lighthouse in Batanes, Philippines, my homeland. To start our basic sketch, draw first the horizon line. I place it somewhere below the middle of the page. Then I draw a rough sketch of the tower in 3 dimensions. Since our focal point is this lighthouse, I made it a little big to occupy the major part of the spread. Connected to the lighthouse is a small stone house beside it. Don't be stressed on drawing details. We just need to draw big shapes to portray the general structure. Then let's draw a downward slope as the lighthouse is situated in a luscious green mountain overlooking the ocean. Let's finalize some lines here in the tower, making sure that it looks proportioned and solid in structure. I will also add some sketch here to show the details of the viewing deck. And lastly, let's add some window here on the tower and on the house. Let's start painting. Using my sable brush, I get a mix of cobalt blue and a bit of amethyst genuine for the color of the sky. I added amethyst to tone down the cobalt blue a little bit. Using a spray bottle, I moisten the paper just to make the washes easier to bleed and blend. Notice that I sprayed some water on top to create that soft edge on the sky. I also tilted my paper so paints will flow down and create a natural gradient from dark to light for the sky. I avoided painting the tower at the moment. I also darkened the upper part of the sky to show linear perspective. Using my sable brush, I sip the excess water puddle on my horizon to prevent watercolor backflow or blooms. Here, I mix the color of the mountain using yellow ochre and a bit of olive green. With quick and bold strokes, I color the mountain area. I also drop in some greens and let the two colors blend naturally. Now to show the downward slope of the mountain, I changed the tone of my mixture to a darker green mix using olive and blue apatite genuine. I also paint the area with a stroke that allows the direction of or angle of the ground to be visible. While the layer is still moist, I take advantage of it by dropping some hints of other colors so they will blend nicely. The secret here is to alter the thickness of the mixture so when You layer colors, you can create a distinction between the middle ground and foreground. When you layer paints with the same tonal value, the tendency is the area will look flat. I also add some splatters to show texture on the mountain as I don't want to paint each grass one by one. Now let's paint the distant mountain with a cold green color. As I notice the foreground to dry a bit, I scratch the paper to create this grass blades effect. I also drop in some thick burnt sienna to add warm accents on the green foreground. Let's paint the ocean at the background next. Here, the mix should be darker than the sky to separate the two fragments. Notice that my brush is almost dry, that's why I created those white unpainted gaps that looks like the glare on the ocean. I fill in the blank area using the leftover greens that I have. Next, I add some more strokes and splatters here in the foreground to serve as accents. I make sure the sky fragment is dry before painting the lighthouse. I mix a light bluish gray color to paint the shadowed side of the tower facing us. I mix amethyst genuine and horizon blue. Using the same colors but now darker in tone, I will paint the other side of the tower. Now let's paint the base of the lighthouse with burnt sienna mixed with some violet to make it a bit darker in shade. Notice that I simply vary the tonal value of the colors per side to create dimension on the structure. I also left the one side of the tower unpainted since it is the lighted side of the tower. I use Indian red to paint the viewing deck of the tower. My mix is a bit thick and dry so it will stand out. Let's add some strokes to complete the painting of the tower. Remember the principle I shared on altering the tone. Next, I paint the roof with Indian red. To make the color darker, I add a bit of neutral tint as I paint the sides of the house. Let's finish off by adding some details like the rails and windows on the tower. I use my synthetic brush so the brush won't hold too much water and it is easier to control the stroke. It is almost like drawing with a pencil. The consistency of the paint is also thick and almost dry so you can create defined strokes. Now I rub my brush also on the base of the tower and on the house to show some rough texture on the wall. I will add some random strokes with white paint for accents. Lastly, with a dark green color using my leftover green and indigo, I add some grass strokes in the foreground and some tiny accents to complete the painting. So this is our final painting. Hope you fell in love with the Philippines, and let's move on to our next destination.